lot of musicals about lynchings. Parade is an extraordinary musical presented by Lincoln Center in 1998. We're moving upstairs from Man of No Importance was downstairs, it's upstairs. It was Jason Robert Brown's first Broadway musical. He was 28 at the time. Parade dramatizes the story of Leo Frank, a Jewish factory manager in 1913 Atlanta who was wrongfully accused of raping and killing 13-year-old Mary Fagan. The subscribers get a load of that. The show is like a musical documentary zeroing in on the Atlanta factory, the trial, the town populace, the politicians and journalists who became involved, and others. The book of the show is by Alfred Urey, who in real life, his great uncle actually owned the pencil factory that was run by Leo Frank. That's pretty crazy.
Fancy. Brent Carver played Leo, and Carolee Carmello played his wife Lucille. Other members of the original Broadway cast included Christy Carlson Romano as Mary Fagan, yeah, even Stevens, right? Jessica Molaski as her mother, Evan Pappas as the writer Britt Craig, and John Hickok as Governor Slayton. Parade was a controversial piece. While critics mostly gave it good reviews, and there was much love amongst them for the score, the public was left cold and in some cases offended. Really, public? The opening number, I shake my fizzy public.
I think that Anna Nathan's character in musical Chairs probably would not have enjoyed Parade. She would have run for the ladies' room.
No, she would have much preferred to have seen Grand Hotel in Citrus. The opening number.
We're doing well so far. Keep drinking. You'll get
The opening number, The Old Red Hills of Home, was a moving, grand ode to the Confederacy. She goes around. And several songs painted characters that turned out to be killers in a very sympathetic light.
That's kind of the crazy thing about it. Like, exactly, you hear The Old Red Hills of Home, and it's a fantastic song, and you're so moved by it, and then you realize that these characters are singing about the Confederacy. It's very much like a no judgment, hands off, we're going to show the town how it is. I could not love this show more. In giving all the characters a multi-dimensional chance to be seen, Urey Brown and director Hal Prince created a musical in shades of gray instead of black and white. We get to see the story from everyone's own point of view. I've always been the most impressed with Come Up to My Office, where Leo, who we know to be innocent, turns into a frightening lecherous monster as the false testimony given by the factory girls is brought to life. It tries to turn us against the character so we can understand how people at the time might have been wrongfully turned against him. So the serious musical.
Yet called Parade.
There's a Jerry Herman musical called Parade. I actually had the Amazon thing where it's like, if you enjoyed Jason Robert Brown's Parade, you'll love Jerry Herman's Parade. I'm like, no, you probably not. You like musicals named Parade.
I bet somebody somewhere got the rights to the Jerry Herman Parade, thinking it was the other parade, and we're sorely
That's amazing. This is totally unrelated, but it's okay. In high school, our choir wanted to sing Everybody Rejoice from the Wiz, that Can't You Feel That Brand New Day, so I was in charge of getting the music, and I got like this crazy gospel song called Everybody Rejoice, and everyone got the music. It was horrified. So that's what would happen if you ordered Jerry Herman Parade for licensing. Everyone would be very mad at you, and you would not have more money to order Wiz sheet music.
Anywho, back to Parade, no exclamation point. Amidst anti-Semitic sentiment stirred up by the town, Leo is found guilty and sentenced to hang. Lucille tries to get the governor to reconsider his case, and she eventually succeeds. He commutes Leo's sentence to life imprisonment. Upon hearing this, a group of men are outraged and abduct him from jail, taking his hanging into their own hands. Morden said, "The entire show is disturbing. It is the only musical I can think of that has stirred real anger in people, though none of that I've spoken to could articulate exactly what had incensed them. It may be that Brown, Urey, and Prince created theater too powerful for theatergoers."
This kind of reminded me of The Caveman, which we featured in a past concert. It's kind of that idea that people are too frightened to see a true story played out on stage, where the bad guys aren't like cartoon characters with plastic guns. I'm not referencing Spider-Man, it just sounded like I was. That's a true story, so no. But where there are real people with a story who, it's not black and white.
The character of Governor Slayton was portrayed in the original Broadway cast by John Hickok. Here to speak about Parade and sing the song he originated, Mr. John Hickok.
Hey, how are you? So I got into Parade in a kind of a roundabout way. I almost didn't get into it. I In the summer of '95, I directed a play called Burning Blue on the West End in London. And a lot of people came to see it, and one of them was Hal Prince. And I got a call. I had to come back to the States once it opened, and I got a call from my stage manager saying, Hal Prince was here to see you, and he left a note for you backstage. I said, oh my God, Hal Prince left me a note. That's really cool. So he showed me the note, and he faxed it to me, and Hal loved the show. He thought it was terrific. He said, please come see me when you're back in New York. It was actually when he was coming back in New York, because I was back in New York. So when he came back, I gave his office a call, and he's such a gracious person. He dictated several letters of recommendation in his office, invited me to his office, and dictated them right there in front of me, and recommended the show to a number of people. And we became friends of a sort. I did a couple of different workshops with him. And in '96, when they were casting the first reading, I got a call for it, and I came by car from Westchester, where I lived at the time, and the traffic was hideous, and it was a hot summer day, and I parked in a lot, and I hustled. I was already 10 minutes late, and I hustled to the audition, and I realized I'd gone to the wrong lot, because it was a different audition place. So I got in my car and drove out of the lot, went to another lot, and I was building myself into a snit. And so I got there, luckily I was late, but they were running very late on their auditions, and I waited around for about an hour in a hot waiting room with a lot of other actors, and I just thought, you know what, this is crazy. I'm just going to leave. I can't handle this. I'm just too stressed out, too angry from the whole parking lot thing, and I literally got up and went like this, and they said, John, Hickok? And I went, and I turned into the room, and I sang my silly song for Hal, and he started laughing immediately, and everything else just went out the window. The first reading for this was in '96 in Philadelphia, and we all knew it was pretty special. And I think we did another reading in Philadelphia in '97. We came back to New York shortly thereafter and did a reading with Matthew Broderick. It was a very interesting chemistry to have Matthew in that part. So it was a lot of foreplay leading up to the out-of-town tryouts in Toronto, where Pretty Music suddenly had a massive amount of dance choreography. And anybody who knows me will tell you pretty quickly that I'm not much of a dancer. And I was doing a song throwing people up in the air, spinning people, and trying to explain on the breaks that I wasn't a dancer. And there was a very fancy modern dance choreographer who had some wild ideas about what it should be. I was racking my brain trying to think of a funny story about this lynching musical. I don't have a lot. I do know that after hearing it for 3 different readings over a period of 2.5 years with just piano, we finally got into the studio in Toronto and with a full orchestra, and the sound was so amazing to hear it completely fleshed out. If you know that score, you know how lush and beautiful it is right from the opening chords. And I couldn't sing. I was crying. It was too emotional. It was too amazing to hear that sound. We came to Broadway, and it lasted more than a minute. Unfortunately, not as long as we had hopes of it to run. I had a fever of 103 on preview week, the last preview week before opening, when all the critics were there. And I called in sick, and Hal called me and said, John, the critics are there. He said, any way you can come in. And I said, okay. And I experienced the power of theater firsthand, because I would go on stage and literally I'm sure my temperature would go back down to normal. The minute I got off, I fell out of my bed, and it would spike up to 104 again. I was miserable, but we pulled it off. I was very sad when it closed. It was my first Broadway musical, and it was a very emotional experience. But here it is, Pretty Music. Yeah, fun number in the middle of an otherwise kind of serious evening. The governor is holding one of his many dance balls, and sort of wooing the ladies, and Mrs. Leo Frank comes in and gets in the line to dance with the governor. And he's surprised by this ambush in the middle of his dance. But he does agree to look at the case again, so Pretty Music. Don't you think that's pretty music. Those fellas shook and played. This beat was really made for dancing. Yes, ma'am, that's pretty music. I could dance the night away. We could hear that song so sweet and true. But truth to tell, not half as sweet as you. Don't you think that's pretty music? This song sure makes you